We're back here for the third time with none other than Beneath Purgatory. Do you guys want to introduce yourself first and foremost?
No.
That's our dick bass player.
All
Yeah,
right,
we
I
all
guess I'm
hate that
going
guy,
first.
honestly.
I guess I'm going first. All right. Hi, everybody. I'm Ian. I play bass.
I'm Logan. I'm the drummer of the band.
I'm Nolan. I'm the lead vocalist.
Why is
I'm
this so
Phoenix.
painful?
All I heard was "I'm Phoenix," and then
That's
you
all
didn't
they need to
finish
know,
the
bro.
sentence. Okay. I was like,
That's
"Is there
aura.
gonna be more?" I'm Connor.
In our very first interview with BP in the summer of 2023, we had Logan and Ian, and then now I'm sitting with the entire band, and it couldn't be any more of a pleasure. Thank you guys for being here.
Thank you
Thanks
for
for
having
having
us.
us.
Yeah.
Hyped to be on the podcast finally.
I didn't know in which order to write these questions and notes, but I guess we'll start with the new addition to the band, Nolan. Well, first of all, for the band, bringing in a new vocalist can feel like a reset or an evolution. What did it feel like to you guys?
Ooh. I can start if nobody else wants to.
Yeah, go ahead.
I think in a lot of ways it was kind of both. I think it was a bit of a reset for us because I think the other guys who were there during this can kind of say their own piece. But in my mind, I felt like there was a bit of like BP burnout and like things. We hadn't been playing shows in a long time, and frankly, by that point, I mean, we hadn't been even really talking much about doing band stuff at the time. We were hardly writing. We weren't practicing. So I think it was a little bit of a needed reset to kind of get a little bit new um, juice in that sense. But it also has evolved us, I think, in a lot of ways, because I think there's no question that on the records, on the old records, my voice was very limiting. Ian's voice was very limiting. Like we just aren't vocalists, right? And so we did what we could, and we did how we could, as good as we could. But by actually bringing in a legit vocalist who has range, who has an ability to hit all of these things that we never could, and deliver it in a way that was just difficult for us, I think that really expanded and opened up what this album could do. And I think it made a world of difference, because anytime I go back and listen to the old stuff now, I'm like, oh God, dude, someone needs to put a bullet through the guy that's speaking over it. So yeah, I mean that's kind of my thing. I mean, like, I think it was both a reset for us to go, all right, like let's actually, figure ourselves out going forward. And hey, there's some new cool stuff we can try now.
Yeah, I feel like it was a reset as opposed to I guess an evolution. Kind of what Logan had said, we were kind of in a bit of a burnout. Like I felt like we had just kind of hit a wall. We weren't really, creatively, we weren't really going anywhere. It was difficult just kind of navigating everything, but then I don't know. It just all kind of fell into place so easily. I mean, Nolan's just felt like a great fit for this band right from the beginning. He fits the style that we tell ourselves we are. I mean, he's just got a phenomenal voice and everything. And then, no discredit to any other former members, but I feel like this is just the direction we needed to go.
Yeah, and I was gonna say that I feel like for me, one of the biggest things I noticed as soon as Nolan joined the band from the very first show was our stage presence. I feel like in general, we just felt a lot bigger, like way bigger. Like there was just, I don't know, Nolan brings really good energy to the stage. He's a good frontman. And I think that maybe we were lacking a little bit historically in that department, and it was just like boom in your face, a lot of good energy.
And now, Nolan, what was it like adapting to joining BP as opposed to like what you do in Necrolent?
It was really cool because it was like a very different setting for me, like singing like without playing the guitar as well. So it's like I was able to really, it was a new kind of experience, and it was like, yeah, it was obviously it was new, but it was also familiar because like I've been around these guys for a while, and like I've done two shows in the past just as like a fill-in member, once on the bass and then on the vocals. So yeah, the vibe is very different and just like the experience overall. And but it's been really cool. I like the different dynamic personally, like between this and Necrolent.
Real quick, can we talk about the artwork? I wanted to know who made the piece.
Phoenix, you want to weigh in
Yeah.
on that?
Yeah, so that was done by my sister. She is a very, very talented artist. It's actually her first bit of album art that she's done that we asked her to work on for us. Um, but yeah, it's all done with acrylic, like by hand. It's interesting. You see the original piece and it's very small, so we take a really close-in photo of everything. But she's an incredible artist. I think we could tag her Instagram somewhere here. It would be awesome. But yeah, I believe she's available for like commissions if other people, want to have their artwork done by her, reach out to her for, album art. But yeah, we could not be like, I mean, obviously as a brother, I'm super proud of the artwork. I think it's awesome. But, as a band too, we're like super happy with how it turned out. It was like the vision that we kind of had for the aesthetic of this album, I think.
So yeah, awesome. Good shout out, and I'll definitely throw it in the description for people that want to get some pieces made for them.
I personally was a little like, frankly, with art, it's so important. It's the visual. Like you're going to see that before you hear the music. And
Yeah.
so you have to nail the artwork. And I mean, you can ask these guys. I was sitting there freaking out for a while. Like, I don't know what we're going to do about the art. I don't know what we're going to do, but it has to be perfect. It has to be good. And things like my sister's got us. And she's never done an album before. So I was worried because I was excited that it could be great. He said it was going to be good, but I hope it's good. And he gave a few records of like the vibe, like this is kind of the vibe we're going for. You don't have to copy it, obviously, but this is kind of like what we're kind of looking for visually. And I remember he immediately sent the art, and I started like yelling. It was like perfect. She captured the vibe perfectly without it being like, oh, that's just a rip off of this. Like it was unique, but it fit exactly what we wanted. And it just looks great. And I've only ever heard everybody saying that it's phenomenal art. And I hope more people go to her because she's just amazing. So yeah.
Nice. Do you remember any of like the references that you sent to her to like,
Yeah, so the album references, we did Dissection, Storm of the Lightsbane, Uada, Cult of a Dying Sun, and Dark Funeral, Secrets of the Black Arts.
along with the artwork, this is the first album with the new BP logo.
Mm.
Who made that logo?
Take a guess.
Yeah, I had a feeling it looks like their artwork. Marci?
The one and only.
That is a fucking phenomenal
You know
logo.
what's hilarious about the logo too is when we first got it, it didn't have all like the strands and the strings and shit on it. And I remember sending like it was just the words, which when we got the very first BP logo back with like Jez and I, and we got it, it had none of the strings and stuff, so it just looked like a bunch of triangles. And when we got the new BP logo, we were concerned at first. And look, with Marci, you got to trust the vision because Marci ends up pulling through at the end. But before you see it like finalized, I think what was it? Ian said it looks like the Wizards of Waverly Place comeback logo or something like that. And like it was like whoever it was, they were like absolutely right. But like when we saw the vision through and it became finalized, it was perfect. Like Marci is just like one of those people that's just like just trust.
Also, with the way the B and the P were merged in it, it just looked like it
Yeah.
read out Purgatory. So it's like, yeah, it was interesting, but it looked awesome. We're super happy, and you can actually read our logo now.
Yeah,
There was a lot of clowning in the group chat about Beneath Purgatory.
Yeah, I think our chat was named that for a little while.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was gonna say that. It's like you can actually like read the logo now. I remember like I made a post of like hard to read band logos. I'm pretty sure I did the original Beneath Purgatory logo.
Dude, that was the first
time.
time I ever saw anybody try to make letters out of that thing. I could never figure it out.
It looks like, hold on, let me pull it up real quick because it looks like, I don't know, like Cthulhu's head or some shit.
It's a fucking spaceship of triangles. Like there's nothing.
Should throw a
It looks
mind
like-
boom sound effect when you pull up the image. In the
Yeah.
post.
Oh, it looks like Cthulhu's head or something, like with like tentacles. And I don't know, but it's good though. It looks awesome. Before we talk about the music, lyrically, does this album follow a narrative, like Martyr did, or is it more or less just a collection of some bangers?
It's pretty much just a collection.
Yeah. Who wrote the lyrics?
I think all of us have like at least one writing credit.
Yeah, it was really fun writing the lyrics because I feel like this album's writing process was like, we're usually pretty collaborative. This is the first time we wrote as like a five piece. And especially on the lyrics, we all had like some contributions on different songs. And I think you can see that like all the songs like pretty different in lyrical subject matter, but it was definitely like one of my favorite parts of the process was just like messing around and coming up with lyrics and like practicing them together. That was super fun.
What was really refreshing too is that because like I hate coming up with lyrics. It's my least favorite part of every album. And so then I finally had people competent with the English language that wanted to give a go at it, and it was awesome. And so like actually, so we have CDs for this album that are actually gonna have booklets now with all the lyrics in them. These lyrics I think are fantastic, and a lot of that is to these guys. I did not have nearly as much lyrical input as previous albums, for the better. I think these lyrics are fantastic, and the stuff that these guys came up with was just awesome. So definitely hope everybody gets a chance to read them. Oh, I will say though, with the I will say with the narrative side of things, we actually did for a while. Our plan was to do another concept narrative record for about like a year. That was kind of our thought process, and honestly, I think once we added Nolan to the band was kind of when we trashed it. Like that's more on the hard reset there too, is I think we kind of realized like maybe that was a bit of a block for us. It was like we were thinking about doing another narrative, and like I had something all kind of mapped out, and I had kind of run through some ideas with a couple of these guys, but it was like the plan was to do one, and a good amount of the music was written for it during that time, but only a few of those songs ended up sticking through with this album. All the lyrics changed, but like our plan initially was to do another one, and like, yeah, dude, who cares?
Hey,
Word.
while we're on the subject of lyrics, do we talk about the pop filter?
Oh, dude, the best part of the album. So, um, every summer, we go up to upstate New York. What describe the house, Ian? Like, what exactly is this place?
So it's I guess an old farmhouse up in the Adirondacks, that my dad's aunt, so my great aunt, had. It's been on that side of the family forever. I was going up there, from when I was, this tall. That's right, I did. I guess I took my first steps up at that house.
What?
Apparently, I don't know. I don't remember it. It was 30 years ago. But but yeah. So it was always just kind of a vacation spot for us. It's for my family at least. It's super quiet, super secluded. The nearest neighbor is like, I don't know, a quarter mile down the road. Um, and it's this tiny, I don't even know if I can call it tiny, but it's this farmhouse that sits like right at the top of kind of a valley almost. And when you look out the front window, it kind of looks down onto a field that then opens up into this whole mountain view of the Adirondack Mountains. And the original idea for going up there was, I think I had remembered hearing something or reading something, um, of bands who go up to far out cottages, or I think it was something like Led Zeppelin when they were recording Led Zeppelin 4, like locked themselves away in a cabin for like 6 months to record the album or something like that. So I thought, all right, well, maybe it'd be a good idea to just go up for a week and do the same sort of thing, because there's no cell service up there. The only any sort of communication that you have is the Wi-Fi network my dad had put in. which you need to have at some point because there is a safety thing too, because it is so far out in the woods.
We should mention
some...
that the first time we did this, not only
yeah.
did we have no cell signal, we had no electricity.
Yeah,
Phoenix blew a fuse.
The first year that we did this, summer of 24, we were all kind of getting up there at different times, and a thunderstorm had rolled through. And they get the storms pretty bad up there, and all of the telephone wires going through miles and miles of woods, tree branches and full trees, falling on wires. But we lost power like the very first night that we were up there, and we didn't get it back for another, I don't know, it was probably like 36 hours or so that we were out of power.
The boys in high vis did us good.
No, it was absolute chaos. Like, we couldn't plug anything in. All of our stuff is, it runs on electricity, so we couldn't play anything. We didn't have any lights, and it was nighttime when we got up there, so we didn't have any, we didn't want to sit down and write, and it just everything went off the rails.
Needless to say, at the end of the weekend, we only got one song done.
Yep.
Harvest Pyre. And then we deleted all of it like a year later.
Yeah, redid the
yeah,
whole
we did.
So
we tried.
So,
I think it was we tried reamping it, and we tried that whole procedure, and we came away with something that sounded like it. But then, about a year later, we were just like, screw that. We'll just re-record it or reamp it or whatever. So that was a whole week's worth of work for nothing.
I will say we didn't have power or internet, but thank God we had beer for that time.
Dude,
72 beers among the four of us for, what was it, 3
days,
3 nights, I think.
3 nights, 72 beers between the four of us.
Well, what killed me about that trip too was I went my summer job. I'm like on tour at NFL training camps, and then I am leaving from, where was I coming back from? I forget where, but I was on 20,
like Chicago.
Yes, I was coming all the way back from Chicago. And we drove straight from Chicago to New Jersey, where my car was at. And then I drove from New Jersey to Hartford, where my drums were at, grabbed the drums. I drove from Hartford to the Adirondacks. So I was in the car for 27 fucking hours in a row. And I'm like, dude, I can't wait to get up there and just relax, put on some TV, watch some YouTube. We'll deal with this in the morning. And I get there's no fucking power. So, oh my God, I was so pissed. And I couldn't see anything. So that was, fuck you, Phoenix.
If you know, you know.
So anyways,
pop filter.
Yeah,
yes,
I was just about to ask, pop filter.
So we did this trip again this year. And our goal this year was, okay, let's actually get a lot of the album done. And I got to say, it was very productive. Not in the way that we initially intended it, though. So, we have to do a lot of our recording in weird remote ways. Nothing is done in a studio except the drums, because we all live so far away. So we have some recording gear from Phoenix and Connor that we're using. And, I'm running the recordings and putting it right into the DAW. And Ian had a microphone that was perfect for this kind of stuff. I forget. It was a Sennheiser or something. Who knows? Because he fucking forgot it. So the one thing we needed, he didn't have. The only microphone we had left was Nolan packed an SM57. And the problem was the SM57 really was not working out with Nolan's voice, because he puts a lot of power into it. And so anytime he made a P or a B or whatever sound, it was just hard clipping the audio. It was Nolan bass boosted. And there was no music store in the area. We couldn't go get a pop filter or anything like that. So I'm sitting here fuck, there goes our chance to record vocals for the album, free too, because it was just up there. So I go to the kitchen and I grab a napkin, and the entire vocal recording, I had to stand between the microphone and Nolan holding a fucking napkin up between them. And anytime somebody did vocals, Phoenix, Connor, Ian, like all of us had vocals on the album somewhere. Someone had to hold a napkin up between them. And when I tell you that I think Nolan spit on me enough times to like fill 2 gallons worth of water, like it was so disgusting. I went through a couple jars of hand sanitizer because he puts power into his voice. So I mean, my hands were soaked after every vocal attempt. But it worked beautifully.
That's fucking funny. I didn't know that you all had vocal parts though. That's awesome.
In spots. Tonight We Ride is the big one. You know,
Yeah, right,
the
the gang
chants are all of
vocals.
us.
Yep.
And Phoenix has iPhone mic vocals, doesn't he?
Yes, Harvest Pyre. But best part is he didn't even record that to the song or to the click. He was just like out in the back for like 20 minutes just singing it to himself, and I had to line it up to the
phone
time.
like this.
And we left those in. We never re-recorded them. Whoops.
Okay.
I think that might have been the only like thing of work from the first weekend that we were out there that like remained.
Yes, actually, it is.
Because we like did all of Harvest Pyre the first year in 2024, and then we had to delete all of it. I think maybe just like those vocals and some other backing vocals are like the only things we kept.
And during the melodies right before the blast beats, I left my demo vocals in actually, and those doubled with Nolan. So that's the only vocal moment I have aside on the whole record, aside from Tonight We Ride, obviously. But other than that, all of it was scrapped. But yeah, Phoenix's thing was the only thing from the first year of actually recording it.
Fuck yeah. That's some good lore right there. Like an
Dropping it.
Adirondacks. All right, so let's get into the tracks. Instead of going track by track where I'll just literally find myself saying the same thing about everything, you know, awesome melody here, you know, insane riff there. I wanted to go through the notable ones to me. And if I don't go over a track that any of you think are notable, I want you to please elaborate on it. Sound good?
Got it.
Starting with the opener, Rotten Grace. What a way to start the album. The first riff sounds absolutely fucking evil before going into like this thrashy second and third riffs with like really cool melodies. And then halfway through, we get these like the super melodic, harmonized riffs. And funny story about it is that when Logan first sent me the album, I have my computer plugged into one monitor. I don't have the right one. I don't know where the fuck it went, but I had one monitor, and I'm listening to the album, and I'm like, oh, this is fire. And then I like forced my computer to switch to mono, and then I hear the second guitar, and I'm like, holy shit!
Bro was listening to the Connor mix.
Yeah, I don't know whose guitar I was getting, but it was the left guitar, whatever it was, and I was like, oh my god.
You don't need the other one. Just you put back on stereo.
That's just what BP sounds like live. You can't hear Phoenix ever.
Oh, and I heard
Very
it with
true.
both the guitars. I heard both the guitars. I was like, holy shit, this is fucking fire.
I was gonna say, so the kind of origin story of that song, I had come up with a couple riffs, like, I don't know, months ago or months prior to us getting into writing that song. And Logan had been pushing us a lot. He was like, hey guys, like if you have any material that you'd like to be in the album, send it my way, and I'll try to do what I can do with it, because we're all busy and Logan likes to write stuff. So I sent him these riffs. And I had kind of like a song structure to work with. And he comes back with something that I loved, like a demo. It had interesting, automated drums in it, and it was a cool demo. And then I don't know, he tells me like he kind of hit a roadblock, couldn't move any further, and he was like, "All right, I'm going to drop it for the night." And then 24 hours go by, and he comes back and he goes, "Hey, so I deleted everything, and it still has the same demo name, but it's an entirely different song, and it sounds absolutely nothing like any of the riffs that I originally wrote." So none of those made it into the album, but that is the origin story of that song. So I thought that was pretty funny. And honestly, it's completely fine, because that's one of my favorite songs on the album by far. And in comparison to the riffs that I wrote, like it's good stuff. So
I felt so bad. I felt so bad because like it was there was some deicide guitarist, was it Jack Owen maybe, who quit
Yeah, I
the
think
band
so.
over Steve Ashim rearranging his songs and just being like, "This is how you wrote it now, bitch." So then he quit the band. So like I felt terrible that Connor wrote this. And I had an idea moving, and then all of a sudden like I would write the next riff and be like, well, I've got a better riff that leads into it than this. I like this, but I don't know if it leads into this. And then I'm just realizing that different pieces fit in different ways. And I think Connor's riffs were awesome, and I'm hoping that we can really use them on the next record. But like, I I just found that a completely new song basically just birthed, and Connor's riffs were better saved for another one. And I felt so terrible. I was like, hey, sorry, dude.
Nah, it was funny though. It was
This
funny.
is all the long game to get Connor to quit the band one day.
Real.
We're wearing him down bit by bit.
I was hoping he left Jack Owen style. I was actually praying on it. That might be my favorite song on the record, though. I I think that one stands out to me the most. I don't think I could think of a better way to open the album. I think it's definitely it might be our most evil song like ever. And it's like super technical and atmospheric, and yet at the same time, it's just so driving.
I think
Um,
I'll say like the aspect of that song that I like the most is just the like punch you get like right at the start. First chord, it's just in your face. And I think that correct me, remind me of how Martyr started. I feel like it was a lot more
like
of
a
a slow build up.
fireplace with some like
Yeah,
clean guitar, and then it
yeah.
punches.
Yeah, it's like
So
the start of
it's like a
Betrayed.
yeah, it's a big difference, which is great. You know, but both are awesome options. But I think it kind of like sets the pace of the album. That it's going to be a really kind of fast paced, in your face, violent album. So
I think in a lot of ways, it kind of signaled the new direction focus with Nolan now in the band is taking a lot more of a aggressive, eviler approach. That like does this song sound like I can't believe BP just did that? No, like you could like it still sounds like a BP song, but like it certainly feels like it has a different vibe to it, a different intensity to it that I think helps signal and bring in the new era that we have now beautifully and really, like Connor said, like set the tone with it.
I think kind of building on we were talking a little bit about that when Logan just said about Martyr. It's like we took a lot of the elements of Martyr in terms of like, and don't get me wrong, like we learned so much like in making that album. We learned how to produce, like how to kind of write like more collaboratively,
Mm.
and sort of like assemble the album. And I think we took a lot of those lessons and we kind of tried to distill more of like the essence of the sound as possible. Like a lot of Martyr was like atmospheric and it was a concept, so we kind of were writing around the concept. But in this, we're like, what is like the core things we can learn? Like, how can we try to make it sound raw, but preserve a lot of that like songwriting, but also keep it like more like listenable? And I think like kind of the title track's like a big example of that. Like, there's a lot of
Mm.
riffs that wouldn't be out of place on Martyr, but we sort of structure them with like our new approach of like a structured song. You can kind of like point out a chorus and a riff and a verse and maybe not sing along to it, but like kind of like groove with it in a different way.
Yeah.
That was the biggest thing Martyr kind of lacked that we really focused on was just song structure. Martyr songs were like reading a poem start to finish, and it never repeats anything. Like there's one song with a chorus I think on that whole record, and you can hardly call it a chorus because it's just like Nolan rapping on Desperate Ritual. But like the songs just they move and move and move and move, and I think we took. And that's what that makes that record sound so off the wall, I think, is that there is really like a lack of structure on Martyr. And so it feels almost crazy technical and progressive when just kind of in a lot of ways they're just unfocused. And we really focused a lot of that stuff on here. And so it feels maybe a little less hectic, but I think just a lot more well crafted.
But yeah, it's a great way to open the track and set the new tone for what's to come with the album, which leads into the second single that you guys released for the album, Tonight We Ride. Absolutely my favorite track on the album. The melodies go crazy, especially that first riff after the intro melody. That shit is so fucking good. Like I'm humming that shit all the way through. And then the chorus with the awesome sing along parts with the gang vocals. I'd sing that shit. Tonight we ride. So fucking good. It's got a thrashy middle section going into this like insane black metal riff. Oh my god, I fucking love that shit. And the solo is definitely my favorite solo on the album. It fit perfectly. Who wrote that solo?
Yeah, so I wrote that. That was my first solo. I've done like a little bit of lead stuff live, but obviously, this is the first album that I've been on. And I think, from talking to Phoenix a lot, he has said, he likes playing lead, but I think he wanted to focus more on riffs. I mean, Phoenix, chime in if you want to say anything about this. But so I don't think either of us were like chomping at the bit to do crazy solos or anything like that. So, we kind of took the opportunities as they came. And for Tonight We Ride, I would say historically my musical interests have been more in the thrash department, like a little bit older school stuff, rockier vibes. So Tonight We Ride like really resonated with me, and I think there was an opening for a solo, and I was like, what the hell, I'll give it a shot. So Logan had to pester me for like months. I think it was the last
The very last thing that got
was
recorded.
Yeah, so I was just putting it off and putting it off and putting it off, and then finally one night I was like, all right, whatever, I'll go through and I'll write some stuff and put it together. And I'm glad you like it though. It's good to hear.
Yeah, absolutely. It fit fucking perfectly for that song. Like what I think it's what you're tapping in the beginning or something like
Yeah,
that.
yeah.
Yeah, and then it goes right into like the melodic old school sound solo, and then towards the end. Oh, it's so fucking good. It's so fucking
Yeah,
good.
it's funny. Phoenix and I were talking the other day, and he mentioned something about how when he heard the solo on its own, it wasn't like his vibe. I don't know if you want to talk about that, Phoenix.
Yeah, I think we just heard like the completely raw like garage band guitar tone. I don't know if you guys like, you got the garage band like default I forgot what they call the tread plate tone.
Yeah.
And it sounded very interesting just in complete isolation. But then we heard it in the context of like the mix, and yeah, I agree, like just loved the way it sounded. And I feel
Sorry,
like
go ahead.
on oh yeah, so like, I feel like on this album, like, you know, aside from Tonight We Ride, like there was a lot less guitar solos in general. Like if you recall in Martyr, I think we maybe had like I'd say like four or five. Some songs had two, like Martyr approach like the title track. Um, but I think just like I really like this like song just for the placement of the solo. Um, and yeah, like the way like Connor executed it. I think we're like pretty very stoked with how it turned out.
I was just going to say, it's funny if you take a step back and listen to the solo in isolation, there's really not a lot going on. Like there's sections of the song where I hit like five notes, or sections of the solo that are not, particularly complicated or anything. So I think that, plays into it, where you listen in isolation, you're like, oh, whatever, what the hell? That's like kind of not super technical or anything. But I think I really wanted to write something that fit with the song and wasn't as much about what I would want to play, or like the sound that I typically like even the key that solo was played in was something I had to just like learn on the fly because I wasn't familiar with that prior to it. So yeah, it was a fun experience.
I definitely agree on the isolation was like when I first listened to it, it was not only rough hearing it in isolation because like it did have the weird tone to it, but then also like there was no lineup. It was I just got the audio clip and I had to kind of figure out how it fit, and I was struggling for a minute to figure out how it properly lined up. Um, and once I got it to fit, again, putting it in the context of the song, it instantly raised that section up so much, and it was absolutely worth the wait. Getting it when like however long it took to make that, it ended up perfect, like great. And I actually did a cool thing where I got the DI from Connor too, like without any amp, on top of like the recorded amp piece, which you like reamped that, right? That
I did,
was
yeah. So I
yeah.
recorded it raw, and then I ran it back through my amp once, but it was like 2 a.m. or something, and I have upstairs neighbors that obviously don't love when I'm cranking my amp, and I dined it. I recorded it through once. I was like, all right, that sounds all right, I guess. And then I sent it to him, and I was like, hey, Logan, use that or use the DI and do whatever you want, with modeling amps or whatever. And he used both, so it ended up sounding good.
I used both, and I actually didn't even line them up perfectly. I put them slightly out of phase with each other, kind of on purpose. Like that little bit of clashing helps things stand out. Like with the Necrolin album with Upheaval, I used some kind of clashing delays on the lead guitar so that those melodies could kind of like rise up over the rest of the album, and I kind of used that as well with Connor, so that the tapping felt like shimmering above the song and stuff like that. And a lot of that came from lining up the two guitars out of phase with each other. It had this really weird push-pull that just it helped it stand out more in a weird way. And it sounded wonderful. I'm so happy with how it came out.
One thing worth noting, though, enjoy it on the album because it's not going to be that good live. I recorded it in sections. I don't remember any of it, and I'm a third of the guitarist that Phoenix is live. So, enjoy it while it lasts.
Third of the guitarist and triple the volume.
Yeah, true. I bring BP down. Like,
none of the skill level matters because no one ever has heard me play live. Every show is just been Connor.
It was like when Connor's
like unimaginably technical, amazing solo, and all you hear is me doing like an E minor chord repeatedly over and over and over again, and that's it.
Connor's first ever show, we got filmed by Bughead, and Phoenix played multiple solos, but Connor was so loud that anytime a solo was going on, he put the camera on Connor whenever like no one was singing because he thought it was Connor doing it. He was so fucking loud. You never see Phoenix play a solo.
Never, dude. Also, to be fair, I don't think I remember any solos off of Martyr how to play them. Or like when I did remember how to play them correctly live. Like it's totally one thing playing like a solo and like and if you play guitar, like a lot of people you play kind of hunched over like close to the fretboard. And you're playing it live in front of people and you have to nail it. It's just usually not happening.
It's tough.
Yeah, fair enough.
Track 3, Victim of Circumstance. It's the shortest track on the album, but it does what it needs to, and it gets the hell out. Sick black metal riffs. And I fucking love that like up down riff. The that
Connor
shit,
does
no. I'm telling you, if you added like some synths to that, it would literally sound like an Emperor riff. Like that shit is so.
Oh
fire.
God, the Peanuts and Cracker Jacks are back. Oh God.
I fucking love that riff. That's my favorite riff on that song.
Dude, no joke. Connor probably spent 24 hours in New York on that song alone. Maybe on that riff alone. It was genuinely 24 hours.
I have a really distinct memory of Connor just like sitting on the edge of the couch. It was also super hot out for context. So over this time of year, it was like 90, just playing the riff like up and down, and with the headphones on too. So you just hear him play this, you go, fuck. And then just turn it back on again.
Phoenix recorded
and
half
I was
the album during
that
that.
time. Yeah, it was fucked. Like I think there's running jokes about particular riffs throughout the BP discography that we all struggle with. I am never going to play that riff correctly live. I recorded it in sections. I'll admit here, I can't do it. Something about it just does not work mechanically with my hands. So the rest of it is whatever, but that one riff.
Everyone's got their riff though, man. Phoenix can't figure out FTD. Jimmy Jackson couldn't play Void of Hopelessness. Like we all got our riffs, man.
I fucking love that riff.
My favorite part about Victim of Circumstance is the lyrics. Nolan, do you want to explain where we got the lyric idea from?
Yeah, it was from a Vaughn song. I think it was the song Watain, actually, or Voltaine. And in the song they say Lucifer killed his unborn child, so he may be a victim of circumstance. And we just thought that line was like so hard and so funny. And so we used that name.
Vaughn is the most English learner sounding band for an English band I've ever heard in my life, dude.
Yeah, like when you read the lyrics, you would not believe that they're actually like native English speakers, like from Hawaii. You would think that they had like never heard the English language before. That's what makes it great.
He may have been a victim of circumstance, man. He may
Yeah.
have. So we were like, dude, we have to name a song "Victim of Circumstance" just for the Vaughn demo.
Yeah.
That one gets a bass solo too, a little bass solo at the end from Ian, um, and gets Phoenix's first solo of the record. There's a little bit of a flourish there at the end, which is a lot of fun. I find that song enjoyable. Again, it's not the most blow you away tune off the page, but I think it does exactly what it needs to, and I always enjoy listening to it.
For me, that song, I already gave my opinion about the riff that I don't particularly vibe with, but the part of that song that I find myself never skipping is Phoenix's solo. I remember when I first heard it, I almost thought it had kind of like a Beach Boys like surfery vibe to it. I don't know if anybody else can hear that,
Yeah.
but then I like listened to it enough, and as the song matured and the mix changed and everything kind of got like dialed in, it's now one of my favorite parts on the album. I just think it's really interesting, and it's kind of like a departure from a lot of the other like really aggressive sounding things on the album.
Yeah, I think a lot of the solo, I think it was in like major key. So it just
Yeah.
contrasts a lot with like the underlying riffs there. Low key is just like one of like maybe one or two patterns I'm like really familiar with for sweep picking.
Mhm.
So it's really just like a what is it? A minor, A major, sweep pick. Then we move up, it goes like up like some frets, and then we move it up 4 frets, and we move it down 7 frets. Um, but yeah, it was definitely a fun part to write. Kind of like, what do you call it? I feel like some earlier death metal bands used to do that somewhat often. They'd have like
Are you talking about the sweet part
the
there before
sweep
it
part.
transitioned?
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah, that sort of stuff. Yeah.
I remember when you pitched that to me um, while we were recording it, and then I put it in, and the first thing I thought of was "Entwined by Vengeance" by Vital Remains. I was like, dude, fuck yeah, we've got some Dave Suzuki shit on our album. I'm so in. I love that. I love that part. It's just like a nice little flourish that just makes it sound so much more like chaotic and evil.
Track 4, Cowering Forms. I didn't take notes on this one. Not saying it's like not a good track, but I found myself when I was writing out my script here, it's just like I keep saying the same shit. Awesome riffs, crazy cool melodies. Was there anything that you guys want to elaborate on, Cowering Forms?
Technically, the oldest song on the album. Um, it was written for Martyr, the only song written for Martyr that made this album. Um, when I first showed it to Phoenix in like 2022, I think that was I got COVID. Ian and I got COVID from a concert that we played, and Phoenix didn't. And then we had to hear for the next 6 months, I'm just built different. I'm
I'm
just
just
built
built
different.
different, bro. I don't
I'm just
get
built
COVID,
different.
bro. I'm just built different, bro.
So pissed.
I'm
It
just
got me
built
so
different.
mad. It was from the same show we had to all throw out our shoes that we wore that
Oh
night
God,
because
at
the
the
bathroom
Raven.
flooded.
Just like, yeah, because the men's toilet had backed up and flooded the like half the venue. So we were walking
Oh,
around in like sewage, and I was like, my shoes were like crusty by the end of the night. So I was just like, yeah, I'm done with these.
I actually miss those shoes. I like them. But regardless, so when I had COVID, that's when I wrote more than half of Martyr, if not all of Martyr, frankly, because I had nothing else to do. I was on spring break, so I cut my whole spring break of that year of college. And that was like serious lockdown. So all I had to do was write music and watch Survivor. And I think I burned through like 10 seasons of Survivor, and I wrote more than half the album. And you can probably imagine where the concept for the Martyr approach really settled in. And so Cowering Forms, at the time it was called Judgment, was written for Martyr Approach. And the first time I showed it to Phoenix once I got out of quarantine, he was like, dude, this pirate ass song, I'm not putting this on an album. Fuck this song. He hated it. Uh, and we started reworking it. And by the time it was like in a pretty decent spot, we were like, yeah, this just isn't like if we had to pick 9 songs from the album right now, it wouldn't be on there. It's just not one of our strongest. So we're just gonna whatever. Each record I end up writing about like 20 songs. Like I seriously think I put like 30 together for Psyche, which and we still couldn't even come up with more than one good song for that album, but I digress. But you know, so Martyr, I probably had like 20, 25 tunes written for it. And I went back and listened to all of them, and they all sucked except like Cowering Forms, I thought was good. Um, and I was like, you know what? Because, you know, we recorded a bunch of the different parts with different sounds. It's like, let me go back and actually comb through this song. And I used some riffs that Phoenix threw in for it during that time when we were first looking at it. And then I added in the beginning, while it's still doing the like very slow blast beats, it has like the part with the lead guitars, and Nolan's voice sticks out a little bit more. And it's just like tons of layers. I added that. Everything else was from the last Martyr session. So it's very similar to where we left it off, but just I don't know if it was maybe my taste changed or maybe our focus of the sound and the direction of this album changed, but it suddenly shot up to being like, no, this is perfect for this record. And it's honestly up there as one of my favorite tunes on the album. The heavy metal riff in the middle. Every time I show it to Jack, he gets like excited about listening to a band that's not from the 80s. Just for like 13 seconds, and then that riff ends, and he goes, "Ah, dude, just put on Jack Panzer." But you know, like it's like there's something there that I think what I appreciate about that is like the heavy metal riffing in the middle is almost like a callback to the debut, where a lot of the riffs from the first album just kind of sounded like we listened to a bunch of like late 70s, early 80s Tony Iommi and said we can do that with but make it worse. So like I don't know, I really love that song, and it's so funny how it started. And Phoenix said, "I'm never fucking putting this out with my name on it," and here it is coming out with his name on it because he has a music credit on it too. Um, I love the tune.
Yeah, like I said, I feel like the very, very original one, I think we did say it was sort of pirate inspired. If you hear it with different backing drums, it sounded very joyous. And I think it was just like it was such a crazy tone shift too from like the stuff we were doing for Martyr at the time. Where like I think we were working on like Kindled Fury and like that, and then Logan's like, "Oh, dude, also check out this song," and it was like super cheery. But I think also like kind of writing that song, adapting it for this album was it was a cool experience because that and Tonight We Ride were I think kind of the two first songs we'd started working on for this album, and
Yes.
I think both of them really, especially this song, like really informed like our writing process and like attitude to like how we're structuring songs. Um, we kind of had like few riffs that we really like, and we sort of think focused this album just like more memorable riffs. We had a few like memorable riffs on a song we really liked, and we're trying to figure out like how do we structure this into like a cohesive song. And I think that was a fun song to work on because we had like I think three core ones or two core ones, and we had to really elaborate that into like a full song. So it's kind of cool to work it within some like more constraints than we gave ourselves on Martyr.
Yeah, and Tonight We Ride was written. I think I started writing that like before Martyr came out. Like Martyr was done and singles were out, but like ask Ian how many times I've said, "Congrats, man, we finished the album. Here's some new demos." Going way back.
It's always, oh yeah, as soon as we get done with the production, the mixing, mastering, whatever, oh man, I really miss writing, I really just want to get back into the writing groove. And, then 30 demos later, it's, dude, I'm never writing a single song again. I kind of want to get back into production, mixing, mastering, want to get back into that stuff. And then he gets balls deep in a fucking production mix. And then he's like, dude, I hate this. This is awful. I wish I could just write again. And it just keeps
And
going.
I think it's important to note that it's that cycle. That's the only reason we get anything done as a band.
Yeah.
Yes.
100%.
I
Well,
was gonna say earlier, on when Logan was talking about the heavy metal riff in the section or in the center of that song. I don't know how familiar you are with reamping, but you record the song once and then you can essentially run it back through the amp and record it a second time so that you can change your amp settings or whatever. So when we did that, right, we would walk into a different room, let the song kind of do its thing while it's recording a second time. And I very vividly remember we sat down for lunch and we just had this song running in the other room. And that riff, hearing it through the wall, I was just like, I love that riff. Something about the reamping process and that riff just really worked well together.
yeah.
So I was just going to say that's kind of an area that I think the guitar tone shines in this album.
Logan wrote a sea shanty.
Dude, especially like thinking about how Martyr was so chaotic. Martyr was like our Deicide Legion where everything's off the fucking walls, and then just randomly throw like an early Running Wild song in the album. Like it would have been so weird. Um, so whoops. I like this new version better. It's fine.
And then track 5, we have the Hunt instrumental. And Logan, I know we've gone over this in the past, and that there's problems with previous releases having instrumental tracks that serve almost no purpose.
Yeah.
What made you guys decide to do this track a standalone rather than it being an outro to track 4 or an intro to track 6?
Well, Phoenix, you and Ian wrote it, man.
Yeah.
Or no, you and
I had
Nolan.
Ian and
nothing to
Nolan.
do with that.
Yeah, it was
I was gonna say I had nothing. There's no bass on that song. I had nothing to do with it.
yeah. What do you call it? With this one? Nolan and I think we were just kind of noodling around on guitars when we were in New York this year, upstate, like back around July, and yeah, I think we just kind of like settled on like the main sort of like chord arpeggio that is in that song, like the da 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 da, da, and we're like, oh, that sounds kind of cool. Um, and we sort of started adding different layers to it, and then we kind of thought like the first half of the album, the first 4 songs, and then the latter 4 songs have a bit of like a tonal shift in them. So we kind of were thinking of like a short intermediate piece that if you're continuously listening to the record, would connect the two halves of the album. And we try to keep it under 2 minutes because definitely like previous records we have had like long instrumental parts. I'd say it's like totally an optional listen, but I think we try to keep it like consistent in the key and sort of like tone of like the track 6. So if you listen to it continuously, you kind of have a bit of a break between the intensity of the first half followed by like the more expansiveness of like Harvest Pyre and some of the songs in the second half.
I was going to say, I think the entirety of The Hunt was written and recorded while I was recording The Victim of Circumstance.
Yeah,
that
absolutely.
You were
Yeah.
talking about liking earlier.
Yeah, it came
I
together
was
really
in
quickly.
the other room. Yeah.
Yeah, it was not exaggeration where we did like half the album during the course of recording Victim of Circumstance. I think
No,
we
like
also,
actually,
I think
Phoenix
we also
finished 4 songs, Ian finished 2, and Nolan got half the vocals done. I will say I don't think I'd call The Hunt an optional listen. I think it's very important for the flow of the album. I think the way that you guys crafted it was perfect for a brief moment of like breathing because I think the album does not let up. The only other time this album lets up is in the middle of Profane Command when it just like all cuts out for a quick second, and that lasts like 2 seconds. Other than that, sounds in your face. And like Martyr had a lot more of the dynamics. This doesn't. So I think it's very important in that sense. Honestly, though, like I'll just be like fully transparent. Part of the reason I really wanted The Hunt to be on the album before they even wrote it was because like every BP album has pretty much been 9 songs, and we had 8, and I was like,
that's
kind of want a 9.
Yeah,
That's also
25.
kind of a big part of it.
Wait, what's that? What's that, Steven?
I said you had 25 songs.
Yeah, no, but it was already like too late. Like, well, because we went into the studio for recording drums. I think I recorded 11 songs on drums. One of them was like a Lord of the Meek re-recording that we never finished, so we got to go back to that.
Oh yeah, we didn't, did we?
Whoops.
I was thinking
Sorry,
about
guys.
that, like 2 days ago.
Yeah, oops. I don't know who recorded and who didn't, but we didn't finish it.
I did, bro. There's a folder in the Google Drive that's Connor's Lord of the Meek re-recording tracks, and that's it.
Well, we didn't get Phoenix or Nolan, and I didn't actually produce the drums or put them in yet. So whoops.
Completely forgot about that.
Yeah, well, but so like we recorded that, and then there was one other song that like we knew wasn't going to be on the album, but we thought maybe we'd make an EP out of. It was like 15 minutes long, and I went back and listened to it, and the drum tracks were fucked up. So like, yeah, we can't use that version. We'll see what we do with the song. I don't know. And there was another song under a working title called Hemispheres, because I listened to a lot of Rush at the time, that was supposed to be on the album, and then we ended up cutting it pretty late. It was kind of like there was a tune on Martyr that was going to be 10 songs on Martyr for a very long time. And only a couple months before the album released, we cut one of those songs. And that was kind of the case with this, except this happened much earlier. We had recorded this. Phoenix recorded most of that song on guitar. I had my drums done, and then we ended up cutting it. That was going to be the closer of the album. And, we might do something with it at some point. I still think the song's very good. It just didn't end up fitting this album. It was a bit of a different sound. So we had 9 songs, and then we didn't. And I was like, hey, you guys want to find a way to put a 9th in here? So, because Martyr had 9, Grizzly had 9, the debut had 9. And if you cut the 4 1-minute Someone Tolds on Psyche, that's 9 songs. So I was like, yeah, let's keep the 9 thing going.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but you briefly considered making the hunt part of Harvest Pyre, right? Or making them the same
Running
track?
into each other.
Yeah.
They weren't going to be the same
Yeah,
track.
you faded one out and then the other one. Yeah.
Yeah, and they're in the same key. It worked in that sense, but it didn't work in the sense that they were set very different speeds and very different tones. So we tried it; it didn't work. But Steven getting what the dog doing? Getting the dog
no,
going.
he's bothering me right now. He wants to make a cameo. I definitely feel like it like not necessarily a optional track. I think it does lead into Harvest Pyre very well.
I was gonna say, did you think it's a useless instrumental song like the other ones?
No.
It's totally fair if you do call it that as well, because it kind of is just there for fun for the most part.
You can just say BP's useless too. Like we get it.
We are pretty terrible.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, Phoenix Live is useless. I mean, you don't even hear them.
True.
But that does lead into Harvest Pyre. And I remember I think it was like, I don't know, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think it was like 30 minutes before me, you, and Nolan did our Shredded Psyche Redux interview. You sent me Harvest Pyre, and I'm like, holy shit, this is fucking awesome. Maybe it was a couple days before, but I feel like it was very close to that interview. I think it was the same day, to be honest, but it was my first glimpse into what the album would sound like, and it's also everyone else's first glimpse into what the album would sound like, because it is the first single of the album. Yeah, it absolutely blew me away. I enjoy the clean intro. It's got some sick, slow riffs and melodies that go into the chorus. Halfway through, we get that blistering tempo change, and I love the second half of that riff in the tempo change.
So Harvest Pyre is actually the one song that I did everything for with the writing process. With the lyrics and the music, and so that's probably why the lyrics suck on it. No, I'm kidding. I can't remember exactly how this song came to be, honestly. It just kind of did. I think I just wanted something to be a bit more. What was I listening to at the time when I made this? I think I was listening to a lot of oddly enough, like Bathory Under the Sign of the Black Mark, and like half that album is like the song like Of Doom is just like so just all in your face, and you can't even tell if the drums are playing a pattern or if a guy's having a heart attack. But the other half of the album has like really epic songs that are slow prodding and doomy, and they feel like they're impending over you. And I think at the time I was just like, yeah, I kind of want to do something like that. And so that's kind of where this came from, was like a Enter the Eternal Fire, Call from the Grave kind of thing, where it was just kind of like really despair-ridden. And I don't know. I forget. This is some BP lore is every album since Shredded Psyche, pretty much. I think Shredded Psyche has had some sort of song or something named after a card in Magic the Gathering, because somebody made a joke that all their cards are just metal songs or metal bands. And then I would like go to a pile of them and just like pick out some cards and be like, dude, this is sick.
Yeah, that was all the demos for Grizzly.
Every single one was a Magic card.
Actually, the one that stuck like that, I think is
that one's original name. I remember this one was Cavern of Souls. Because someone told me I used to have an old I'm a bit of a loser. I used to have an old Cavern of Souls from the original Avacyn Restored printing, and I traded it in for like $5-10 at the time, and now that card's worth like over $100, and I regret it. So then I made Lord of the Meek and I called it that. But like Grizzly Spectacle is actually a Magic card. Desperate Ritual, Kindled Fury. There was another one for Cruel Bargain is a Magic card, and there's two on this album, and Harvest Pyre is one of them.
Wait,
I remember
what's the other
like,
one? Oh,
Profane
Abyssal
Command.
Embrace? Oh, Profane Command.
Yeah, that was the last song we named on this album, and I remember playing with my friend. We were playing online, just like drinking some beers, and just like, dude, wait, that's like a sick name. Let me go put it in the chat, and everyone's like, okay, yeah, that's it. Um, we had all the lyrics and everything written. We had no idea what the fuck to call it. We could never agree on anything. I know we're talking about Harvest Pyre right now, but with Profane Command, nobody could agree. And then that came up, and we're like, all right, yeah, that's fine. But so Harvest Pyre is one of the two Magic songs in this album. So there's that. And I don't know. I feel like there's not really much to say. It's just kind of like it's the first single. It's the well-written one. I think it's objectively like maybe the song that most people will like. It's maybe the most attainable song for the average JoJo. So
Most attainable.
I don't know. I don't know.
There you go. Thank you, Nolan.
Is it the most attainable?
I have something to say about this song too. This song holds some like special significance for me too, because this was like the first thing that I was a part of coming into the band. Because like right when I joined, like the first show I did on vocals, this was like the new song that we were playing live for the first time. And the first thing that I did like for recording with the band too was the demo for this song. So it was like the first time that my voice was like on something was the Harvest Pyre demo. And this was the only new song that we were playing live for a while. I think it's the only one. No, it's not the only one still we played live, but for a while this was the only new song that we were playing. So this was like I said, the first thing that I was like kind of contributing to coming into the band.
Yeah. How long have we been playing this now? Because we
Two
just our last
years.
show, we played two other new songs from the record, but
Yeah, the
Harvest
first
Pyre for
time we
2
played it
years.
was in July 2024.
yeah, it's been a while. It's a really fun song live, though.
Yeah.
It is. I really enjoy playing this song. It's one of those ones that like I don't have to try to remember, if that makes sense. It just kind of, I don't know. It just kind of flows. Like it just sticks with me really well. I don't have to like try to remember this one.
This is the song though that I learned that my strategies for playing live with Necrolent do not work with BP because like Steven, if you remember the last time we were talking about how I used to just like crank Red Bulls before Necrolent shows
Yep.
and suddenly I can play fast. I did that the last BP show and I mean I played very fast obviously, but like Harvest Pyre, impossible. My heart was fucking racing. This was
Way
up
too
at the
fast.
Grange. And I was like actively trying to slow myself down, but like my heart was saying you're playing way too slow, but in actuality I was playing way too fast. And so I was really sloppy because my arms were moving way faster than my brain wanted them to, but my heart was saying go faster because my heart was about to beat out of my chest. It was the worst thing in the world. So I got to figure something out, but yeah.
Two points about this song. First of all, my favorite bass part on the entire album is that outro of this song. And I have argued again and again and again that we need to mix that higher and higher and higher and higher. And that was like a routine, I feel like, debate that we had about how high that should be mixed. And actually, funnily enough, one thing that did stick around for a long time from the original disastrous recording of this song in our first summer trip was that. And it was recorded on Ian's old bass amp. That amp has since died horribly, and it does not exist anymore. So it had stuck around, and I think it kind of had a special place. But then ultimately, when all the bass was, well, I guess we can talk about what happened to all the bass tracks, but ultimately it was replaced. But I think that outro is a particularly interesting part of the record. Really technical bass work, and you know.
It is
Great job.
Really cool sounding if I can play it right.
You play it right on the record.
On the record, it's really easy to make it sound like I played it right on the record.
Maybe
it's good. I do really enjoy that moment of it. It's nice to kind of have one of the things that I like about Logan's songwriting, of course, he disappears right when I try to say this, but one of the things that I do really enjoy about Logan's songwriting is that he kind of gives space for each instrument to kind of have a moment. And, I mean, that's been present since the very beginning. Void of Hopelessness, had that, kind of bass. I don't know if I would call that an outro. I guess an outro. And then, there have been moments here or there, across every album where there have been, moments for bass. There have been moments for guitars. There have been moments for drums, stuff like that. So I really enjoy like when the entire band, comes together and can play together as a unit, but then when we can each kind of showcase what individually, we're all kind of capable of.
That's a really good
Should
point.
should we wait a little bit to talk about Ian, your bass nonsense?
Yeah, that was another. I didn't know how to structure this because I was like, we're gonna talk about something. It's gonna lead into this, and then it's gonna partially answer one of the questions I have later, like basically like how and where everything was recorded. But we could definitely get into that.
Yeah, so I guess let's tackle that. Logan, I don't know if you want to weigh in on that
About
at
the
all.
bass debacle.
The bass
Yeah.
recordings, yeah.
Okay, so Ian, obviously the second longest tenured member of the band. He goes all the way back to Shredded Psyche. He's the only other member of the band to have played with Jez. He's that fucking old. What a loser. So, all the way back in Psyche, he's been playing with this. Yeah, flex on him. He's been playing with this 5-string Squire bass that he's had, and that bass has appeared on Shredded Psyche. It appeared on Grizzly Spectacle, though you can hardly tell there's a bass on that album. Sorry, bro. And the Martyr Approach. It was on all three of those records.
And I'm pretty sure it's had the same strings for all of those records as well.
No fucking way.
Yes. It has. Because do you know who changed?
At one point, but
do you know who restrung it at one point?
I know
Logan.
You did my 4-string.
I did both of them.
Did you?
I'm pretty sure I did both of them because I said you need new fucking strings, and you said, they're fine.
They've been fine.
If it ain't broke, don't fix them.
Well, they finally broke, God damn it. So here's the thing.
He took wire cutters to this.
Ian's bass had a really, I'll say, fascinating sound to it. Now, look, you put new strings on it, it probably sounds cool. But, it was working in a way, the frequencies I was getting from it were directly clashing with what I wanted the bass to do in the mix based on where the guitars were and based on where the kick drum was. His bass sat perfectly where the guitars were and where the kick drum was and not in the hole. So it was this weird kind of clashing thing. There was no bite to it. It was like I either got an obscene amount of sub bass frequency low end that would drown out the kick drum and make it sound like someone's farting the entire song, or I got pick noise. And I don't mean like there's distortion. I mean, I hear the moment the plastic touches the 10-year-old rubber band you call a string. So that was all I heard.
Or like a steel bridge cable, but yeah.
Right. So when I graduated college, my parents got me when I graduated with grad school, because when I finished undergrad, they said, well, get back to work, bitch. So when I finished grad school, they got me a bass for my hard work. Thanks, Mom and Dad. And of course, when it shipped out to me, it was all fucked up. And I went to a guitar store and they were like, yeah, man, I don't know how you got this, but it's all warped. It's all fucked up. You gotta like completely get it fixed. It's gonna cost like hundreds. And I went to another guitar store and he's like, dude, you just need a fucking setup. And they got it set up for me. It plays amazingly. And I told Ian when we went to go record the last song, he had recorded the whole album at this point, except In the Grip of the Depths. And we go to record the last one. Oh my God, that's right. That was down in my parents' house in Connecticut because I was down visiting for the day with my ex. And so you recorded that day. Yes. Okay. And
yes.
I brought down my other bass. That's right. Because my ex was in the other room. And then
right?
Yeah, and then my brother and sister and their significant others both came in the middle of recording. It was so awkward. All while my parents were in a different country and we were in their house. And again, I don't live with them. I live in a different state. So whatever, it was weird. Um, and I brought my bass and was like, let's just try it. Let's try one because I recorded demo bass for Abyssal Embrace that rhymed on my bass. And I thought that it sounded exactly what I wanted the bass to do. I was like, oh my God, wait, this is the sound. And when Ian put his bass on it, it sounded like something was not quite right.
It
And that
sounded
was the
like a
tilt.
suspension bridge.
Huh?
It sounded like a suspension bridge.
Huh?
Do you know what a suspension bridge is?
That's the shit with the cables, right?
All
The
right,
shit with the
you're gonna
cables.
have to cut this. You're gonna have to cut this. Bro did not get the joke.
That was a callback to my bridge cable remark, Logan.
Oh,
Yeah.
I'm tapped in. So, um,
Well,
I
that's
said
true.
here, try it with my bass. And we recorded in the grip of the depths with my bass and with his bass. And after listening back and forth, we both decided that my bass was the sound we needed. And especially from the mixing standpoint, my bass was the sound we needed.
Now, to be clear, we recorded everything, then did one song on
We
the new
recorded
bass,
everything with the old bass, whole album.
and then I left, and we were like having this conversation over text when we were like, yeah, I think we need to re-record the entire thing with this new bass. I think it's going to be worth it. I think it's going to, elevate the sound to where we want it to be. And I mean, he was exactly right. It was, but that meant I had recorded the whole album already and then had to go re-record the entire album again in, when was it? Like,
One day.
it was recent. Yeah, when was that? That was
Was that early November? Like you did it, like it was
Yeah, it
around
must have been,
Veterans
yeah.
Day. It was before Thanksgiving.
Yeah, it must have been. I mean, the timing doesn't matter, but we were so crunched on time because we wanted to get this album out to Zeus, who was going to do the mastering, and we wanted to get it to him before the end of the year, which meant that we had to really crunch down and do this recording as quickly as possible. So I got up there at like, what was it, like 9 or 10 in the morning, something like that.
Something early, yeah.
And we sat down and we just cranked through every single one of these songs. And a lot of these songs, some of them were easy. Some of the ones like Profane Command, I think I was able to do with like minimal retakes and
that was
stuff
nothing.
like that. Some of them took a little bit of extra time. I think that kind of solo bit at the end of, I think it was Victim of Circumstance.
Yeah, that one took a minute.
But there were other moments, like the fast part of Tonight We Ride. I had practiced that song for fucking hours, and I don't know how I did it, but I nailed that section in one take.
Yeah.
I was re-recording the new bass. So all of that whole back section is just in one take with a couple minimal edits for like timing. But
it was,
we got the whole
like,
thing done in a day.
The whole record, minus In the Grip of the Depths. We could have gotten that in there too. Because the other thing too is like Ian packed a bag to spend the night at my house.
Yeah.
Like he was going to show up at like 9 in the morning and probably leave around 1 p.m. the next day. We were prepared for it to be a serious grind, including an hour and a half of dinner and like half an hour of sitting on the couch listening to a Marduk record and drinking a beer.
And another 20 minutes cleaning up a spilled beer.
And then another 20 minutes of me spilling a beer. Including all of that, he was out of my house by like 5 p.m. Like it was the most efficient, successful recording session I've ever had in my life. Ever. Like that was more efficient than any drum session I've had. I mean, it was just so painless. He was so prepared. He was so with it. and it sounded so much better for it. And his performances were better. His tone was better. Everything was better. And I really think the bass was one of the biggest improvements on this album from the last album, just with the combination of the tone and the fact that he went into that studio session so fucking prepared that we really did not have to do much. His performance was just airtight. I hated it for both of us, especially for him. I really felt bad because, like, imagine you work your ass off recording a whole record, and then I say, "Now do it again." Um, but I mean, it got what we needed and then some. So
Now
Yeah,
compare
it
that
definitely brought.
level of efficiency against Victim of Circumstance recording. The whole album was re-recorded on bass in one day. It took me a whole day to record one riff on the album. So
genuinely 24 hours on that fucking song.
big contrast.
All we would like Phoenix said, all we would hear is just him like pluck a couple notes and go fuck, and then do it again for like the whole day.
I was this close to breaking the neck on my guitar. Like this close.
Track 7, Abyssal Embrace. This is the most death metal track from Beneath Purgatory I've ever heard. Are the guitars down tuned for this one?
I don't think they
Drop.
are. We were,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah,
they're
they
just like, are they down tuned fully? I think they're
They're
just,
well, it's dropped.
They're in the same drop tuning
It is
as
dropped.
like
yeah,
the other
it's in
songs
the
on the
same
album
drop
that are
tuning as the
dropped.
other songs on
Okay.
the album. Originally, I guess like for some context, like this is I guess these are just riffs I like sent Logan maybe like a year and a half ago in summer 2024. At the time, I've been listening to like lots of like Suffocation, and I think what was it Suffocation, Blood Incantation, and like Dying Fetus. So yeah, Ian's a big Dying Fetus fan. If you ever come to our show,
Every
I am
Ian
actually, yeah.
BP picture is in a DF shirt.
I have exactly one band shirt that fits me right now, but that's a whole other story.
But yeah, you know, this inspiration for this song was like mostly sort of like no, it's late 2000s death metal, mid 2010s death metal, not the old shit. The kind of newer stuff. But it was a really fun song to write. It was pretty collaborative. Logan and I were just kind of honestly just kind of messing around on it and just kind of came up with the riffs and the drum parts. And it was fun for me. It's sort of like my first like time trying to write like a death metal song. I believe it's like one of the few songs I actually wrote on the album, so it was a fun time. And I think it's also sort of a fun like vibe shift from the rest of the album, just in terms of like just sort of like a heavy, simple song that you can just kind of like vibe out to. And I believe we're gonna be playing it live like relatively more often.
Yeah, we've already played it live once.
We did, right? In New
Pretty
Hampshire?
cool.
Yeah.
Another
we've
funny note
been-
about this song is we sat around for like an hour trying to figure out a title for it, just like shooting around all these ideas.
Yeah.
We probably had like 200 titles we came up with. We
Seriously,
finally
way
settled
too
on
much
Abyssal
effort that we had
Embrace.
put into this to come up with this title.
Was that
Dude, at one point we settled on the name Gay Fish because we couldn't figure it
Gay
out.
Fish was
Like
good. We should have done that.
Gay
Yeah.
Fish Thought Squid?
Gay Fish and Thought Squid, that's right. We knew we wanted some nautical theme to it. We were just like,
Yeah.
I don't know.
It's like an evil sea shanty, honestly.
Oh, I
Yeah.
thought sea shanties were something you'll never put your name on, bro.
Oh damn! Sea comes all BP's full circle.
Real talk. No,
One big social experiment.
this song was, yeah, like all the riffs were Phoenix, and then Phoenix gave them to me and was like, here's kind of the rough structure I was thinking of. Do with this as you think. And I kind of just put in his structure. I think the only difference I did was that middle section there, where we go back to the like original riff. I did like a cool little weird drum syncopation thing, and other than that, it was kind of it. I think the song is a fantastic vibe switch. It doesn't feel out of the ordinary on this record in the sense that like it doesn't feel like it completely doesn't belong. Like you can listen to this and go like, yeah, this fits on the album, but at the same time, it's very clearly unique and without letting go of the intensity. And the best part of this too is we got Colin, Wretched Inferno, to sing on this song too.
No fucking way, dude.
I never
For
told
real?
you that.
No.
Oh shit.
That's
Yeah,
fucking awesome.
the verse after the weird ass alien ass riff, after that,
The bendy riff.
yeah, after the bendy straws, it's Colin.
That's fucking
What with the
sick.
crazy low vocals? Yeah, that's
Yeah.
him there.
Because I was gonna ask Nolan about that, about like the vocals on it. They sound absolutely demonic, but that makes sense. Colin is a fucking beast.
Yeah. He was like, I asked him, I was like, hey, we might have a BP song that would fit your voice. Would you have any interest? He's like, dude, fuck yeah, just send it to me. I was saying to somebody in the band that this album has a lot of parallels to Grizzly Spectacle to me. Like I think this album's in a lot of ways more similar to Grizzly. And whereas Harvest Pyre was kind of like the Lord of the Meek of this album in a lot of ways. And we didn't write it thinking that we're gonna write Grizzly too, don't get me wrong. But this song, Abyssal Embrace, kind of feels like the mutiny of the album, where it's like a quick little break for a vibe switch, a memorable hooks and riffs, and bigger moments in a shorter span with a less structured approach. I think the song does everything it needs to. It's awesome.
Which leads us to the most recent single release for the album, Profane Command. And this is unfortunately another one that I just did not take notes on. Again, I just found myself saying the same thing: sick riffs, awesome melodies. Um, what made you guys decide to make this the third single?
Nolan, you want to go for it?
Sure, funny story actually. It was like very, very close to being Abyssal Embrace as the third single. And because we were thinking like, yeah, the song, it did really well live the first time we played it, or the only time we played it so far. And like with the Colin feature and everything, we just thought it'd be really cool to showcase it. But or I think originally it was going to be Profane Command, then we switched it to Abyssal Embrace, and then we switched it back because I had said to the guys like it would make more sense for the third single to be a song that isn't one that like deviates from the sound of the album, like the bulk of the album, the way Harvest Pyre, Tonight We Ride, and Abyssal Embrace all do. So I was thinking Profane Command would just like be more of like a better representation of the sound overall. And then seems like everyone kind of agreed on that.
Yeah,
And
we put
I
the
think it's one of the better
three.
tunes in my opinion, at least. I mean, I love all the songs on it, but this one's one of my favorites personally.
Yeah, Nolan, your vocal performance at the end. I remember when you're gonna have to remind me of which lyric it is, but I know right at the end there's the one part that you sing that when we recorded it, I remember everybody just like dropped dead, rolled around on the floor like holy shit, that is the vocal performance of the album. And
Yeah.
like still to this day, like what's the exact lyric in that part?
Is it
Yeah,
For
so
Your
I
God
say,
Will Fall?
yeah, it's like,
Something like
oh,
that.
yeah, God, will fall by day, there's blade, all that one. I went like higher than I've ever screamed before. So yeah, I'm glad it came out well. I'm glad you guys all liked that. Made me happy.
What killed me during that section was while you were recording it, like everyone was going nuts when they heard it, and I was holding the fucking napkin, so I had to stand there. It's like I'm trying not to go crazy, but I'm also trying to make sure that I don't fuck up the take.
Yeah, exactly.
And man, you spit on me a lot during that song.
Oh yeah.
That one was gross. But yeah, definitely the best vocal performance, and um, maybe one of the more intense, like dark funeral type songs. A lot more atmosphere, a lot more blasting, a lot more speed. I hate playing that song on drums. It's so fast, and I love the tune.
And that leads us to the last song of the album, the title track, In the Grip of the Depths. Awesome opening riff into more melodic riffs, and I love those like grindy tremolo sections where it's like ripping a scale or whatever it is, and it's just tremolo picked. It's so fucking sick. The break almost halfway through where the bass is doing like some it's like almost isolated bass. Like the guitars are just ringing out and the bass is just playing. Going into more tremolo riffs, it's fucking awesome. And then the melody before going into that odd time signature kind of riff up, bam, bum, bam, bum. It sounds like that's an odd time signature, right? It's not 4/4 or anything like that. So fucking awesome. And then it goes right after that into like this Iron Maiden-esque riff. I kind of call it like Iron Maiden. It reminds me of Iron Maiden. It's definitely, in my opinion, probably like the most technical song on the album, and probably the most melodic.
Mm.
And it's a great way to conclude the banger album.
So that Iron Maiden-y section and the thrash riff right before it, they weren't initially in the song. Actually, this song went through a lot of changes. The first few times I wrote it, I remember showing it to Phoenix, and he was like, "Dude, this shit sucks. I'm not gonna lie." So like the original version of this song did not last.
I'm not as big of a hater as Logan makes me out to be on his
That's
music.
bro. That's only mildly true.
That is only a big part of the writing process.
I'm not
It's just
putting
part of
my
the
name on this
process,
shit.
bro. You should have heard the stuff I wrote for Psyche that didn't make the album. It gets worse. No, and so that wasn't. I remember showing it to Connor. Like once we finally got it to this version, I showed it to Connor, and he was like, "I like it, but it feels like there's something missing. I feel like after that odd time signature part, put a driving thrash riff and tie it all together with something that feels memorable." And I put maybe my favorite riff on the album, the whatever that is. That riff kind of reminds me of like the super technical riff at the end of Abandoned, like the one final gasp of music there before we get into the melodies. And tied it all together. That was one of the songs that was written when this album was going to be a concept record early on. That was one of the original songs for the album. So yeah, you can still kind of hear a bit more of the progressive nature because when we started writing it in that sense, it was a hell of a lot proggier. So you hear a little bit of the prog come through on this album or on this song. Because it was like that and Tonight We Ride. And I think Cowering Forms were like the three that were from that original version of the album. And yeah, I adore this song. I think it's nice to have a little instrumental section to that showcases all of us. Like there's a drum fill in there, there's a bass lead, tons of melodies with a lead that Phoenix plays, and the reamping that Connor was talking about when you get to hear the guitars isolated. How many times did I go, holy shit, when we were listening to Connor's recorded part during that lead? Like the way he played those melodies was just, you got to hear him isolated, man. Like there's so much thought and feeling into every strum that he put. It was truly outrageous hearing it on its own. I just, this is another one of my favorites on the album, and I think this is like the quintessential definition of the sound of this record. It's super black metal, it's super evil, a little bit of progginess, a ton of melody, and some thrash in there. Like this is like the definition of the album.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
and something that I find interesting is that out of all the songs in the album, I think this is one of the most enjoyable to play. Even though it's really technical, it's just fun. A lot of the riffs are like just challenging enough that I don't feel like I'm gonna like horribly botch them when we ultimately do play them live. But it's like a good combination. But what's interesting is that I personally don't really love how it sounds like at the end of it. I feel like out of all of the songs, we consistently struggled to get this one into a place that fit the image that we were going for. And in the end, it's good, but I am excited for what it's going to sound like live because I think it'll shine more. It could just be like the raw recording tracks that we did just weren't as strong as some of the other songs, and something's a little different with this one.
Yeah, the production's different.
Yeah, and a lot of the songs we recorded at on that summer trip that we talked about, but this one song was one that we kind of all recorded in different places at separate times because we ran out of time at the end of that trip, and we were like, all right, we don't want to rush it. So it could have something to do with that. Maybe it's the room we recorded in, who knows? But yeah, I'm excited to hear how it sounds live because even though I do think it ended strong, it's just I feel like it doesn't sound as good or like as good as I think the other songs in the album sound. I don't know what everyone else thinks, but
There's a definite production difference. There really is. maybe the average person doesn't hear it, but I've listened to this album enough fucking times that I frankly never want to hear it again. So like I hear all the differences so much that like yeah, it does sound different. And I don't think it's in a good way, but I don't think it sounds bad by any stretch. I just
No,
it doesn't
definitely not.
like to me like Harvest Pyre sounds perfect kind of thing. And I don't get that vibe from this production wise. And I think the separate locations and recording it over time had a lot to do with that.
Yeah, I think we were just kind of punching ourselves because we're like, damn, like this is such a cool song and we want it to be perfect. And we were just fighting with it like time and time again. So, it's good to hear that you enjoyed it. And that it, even if, we are being nitpicky about little production differences, that it still has its place in the album.
Mm.
I recall
Absolutely.
that like this something similar sort of happened on Martyr with the song Abandoned. I feel like, like when you're recording an album, there's like a not a temptation, usually logistically, and like it makes sense to kind of tackle the simpler or more straightforward songs first. Especially for guitar, where if you have a song that has like three riffs, like you just bang it out, get good takes, it's simple, and like you're not very fatigued doing it, so it ends up being pretty solid. But like there's definitely a habit with these more like complex, bigger songs to not cut corners, but to kind of struggle with them, especially if you record them like this song and Abandon at the very end of an album production life cycle, where like we had already done everything else, like we were really ready, like we were a little worried about time, and we're still totally trying our best, but there might be like instead of having Abandon, there might be some small details that kind of like slip through the cracks that like you're not 100% aware of. I don't think any of the average listener would pick up on any of these details. But yeah, this definitely was a doozy of a song to like do and get done for everybody for sure.
Next time we really got to like record the tough ones first.
Honestly,
Like
yeah.
we've done that so many times. Even on Martyr, I think on Grizzly, I think the last song we did was Surrounded by Sorrow. Well, I mean, it was me fucking recording it on guitars, but like for solos, no, when we did solos, I think the last solo we did was Mourning Myself, and that was the one that you did the most times, Phoenix, because that one was the toughest one to do.
I think so, yeah.
So even going back to then, like, yeah, all right, let's not do that next time.
Still, all of the work we put into this song was less cumulative time than it took me to record one riff on Victim of Spring.
It's gonna be an ongoing joke.
Connor was a victim of circumstance, man.
I
That song's
was.
about
It's about me. I'm the victim.
So I guess you kind of like partially, for the most part, answered this question, but I'm gonna still ask anyway. You can elaborate on it a little more if you'd like. In our very first interview in 2023 for Martyr, and basically like which is crazy because we've been at this interview for almost 2 hours now, and that was like the length of our first interview. But that was me diving into all the lore and to everything up leading up to the point of Martyr, and we've been spending 2 hours talking about just one album. But in the first interview, you said it had been out for only about 2 months, Martyr, but there were already a few demos written for LP5, but it would be a good 3 years or so before it would be released. Here we are in 2026, and my question is, did any of those demo versions make their way to the album? If so, were they changed in any way? And the ones that didn't make the cut, what made you decide to scrap them?
I remember which ones they were too. One of those songs made the album, I think. And this is very common. Usually the early songs don't make it. It's just for me to kind of figure out what actual style do I want. Thinking back to old albums, like the only early songs I can think of that made those records would be like Dementia on Shredded Psyche or that who the fuck no, I think Wasted and Circuitry and Wires were the first ones on Grizzly, and nobody even listens to those. So like on this album, the only one that ended up making it, I believe, was Tonight We Ride. At the time, that was one of like 3 or 4 songs that I had written, and it did change. The original pass of that song was like 7.5, 8 minutes. I don't think I cut any riffs from it. like no new idea, but like Phoenix listened to the song and was like, dude, it's good, but just like shut the fuck up and move on. And again, he said it a little differently, but Phoenix and I sat through and combed it down to where it's at now. And well, no, not quite where it's at. I think there was like at one point where after the blast beats, before it goes back into
We
the
had like a
original.
pause there, but I think like
Yeah,
riff wise and structurally, it's pretty much unchanged from like that interview. So that was that song, and I think a bit of Cowering Forms have been the two kind
yes,
of like anchors of this album of like things that we had done pretty quickly.
yes.
Yeah.
I don't remember if I looked at Cowering Forms by the time that interview was or not, but I remember that being one of the earliest songs that we said, okay, yeah, this is what we're going to build around.
Yeah.
Because I remember I wrote one song with the intention of it being the opener on the album. Because I remember it being its demo name was Open. It was terrible.
Oh, I remember that.
Dude, that song sucked. I wrote one song after listening to a bunch of Rush that I remember was really bad. That had like the fucking reggae beat in it, dude. Like, there's so many ideas that I put down that are just terrible, and you have to get the terrible ones out of the way. You have to, because you can't get the good ones until you've figured out what works and doesn't work. So,
I think the reggae beat
um,
was my fault. I was really into like reggae at the time, and I was like, how can we force this into one of these songs? I think I made
it,
Logan put it in there.
but like, the biggest thing that we took from the last record too was like Martyr came together fast in the writing. The recording didn't. But like I got COVID, I watched 10 seasons of Survivor, and boom, the album was written. And this record, we all consciously agreed, like, no, we're gonna take our time and we're gonna make sure that we have the best material on the album. So writing took a lot longer. Uh, and that was a very conscious choice. So yeah, not many of those early ones made it, whereas more earlier ones on Martyr did make it. But this one, it was, Tonight We Ride and Cowering Forms if it was worked on again by that interview, but I don't remember.
Something that I just think it's worth mentioning that's funny, now that we're talking about Tonight We Ride Again. The name of that song. So it's a little weird, right? It I don't know if you call it a little cringe or something. It's a strange name, but like the origin of that is I had this roommate in undergrad that would say that all the time before we went out drinking. That was just his thing. He would say that. And I think it was my second show. It was the first show we played at Ralph's, maybe.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Yeah. And I was saying that because at the time I was living with this guy.
Sorry, I think my headphones just died. So we
You
might
are
have to
so
edit that
much
a little bit.
clearer now.
Yeah, now you're
Yeah.
talking in HD.
Okay, okay. Well, that'll sound weird, but what I was saying is, yeah. So the first show that we played at Ralph's, I think it was my second or third show with BP. I think Phoenix and I were like standing outside of Ralph's, and we were trying to decide something that we could post on Instagram to say, oh, we're having a show tonight. And just jokingly, we said tonight we ride, and that was like the caption on the post. And that just kind of became a thing that we've been saying routinely. And then at one point, I think one of us jokingly suggested, oh, what if we named a song that? And then we did name a song that, and all the lyrics were written around that name. So like it just kind of has an interesting history with the band, at least in the time that I've been with BP.
I've never
We
heard
should
that
talk
story
about the
before.
What'd you say?
I've never heard that story before. I had no idea
Oh,
where
really?
that came from until now. Yeah, nobody's ever told me that.
we should talk about the original lyrics to that
Dude, I
song.
was just gonna say,
Ian, do you
Ian, how much you remember your bars, man?
I remember. So I had the demo. What was it? Yeah, so I had the demo and I wanted to work on something because Logan, you guys were doing something else downstairs.
We were recording something, yeah.
Yeah, and this was one of the
The first summer camp.
the first summer camp trips. Yeah. And yeah, so I just went upstairs and kind of secluded myself and was listening to the song, and I was trying to rewrite lyrics, and I was trying to go with the thing. I think you had given me the name at that point. It was like Tonight We Ride. So I was like, okay, let's try to make it something like, like the band is going out to hit the road, or, something like, Metallica's Whiplash, when they're talking about like playing music and being on the road and being a metal band and, shit like that, so kind of cheesy, generic, whatever.
Best kind of metal lyrics.
Yeah, it's great. Yeah, you got to lean into the cheese. You really do. But I was coming up with just like partial phrases. Like I would come up with like maybe 3 of the 4 lines of a verse, and then I would just blank out and come up with something completely off the cuff.
There's a bar like
I remember distinctly.
Tonight we're
because I was
for
texting
those
them
asses.
all. I
I
wasn't
think
keeping them.
It was like
all to the group chat as I was coming up with these. So they're downstairs trying to record, just getting hit with these egregious fucking.
One of them was, I remember he sent it to us, and the best part is there was like a vent right upstairs between his room and ours, so I could hear him giggling every time he made this shit. And I remember one of the lines was like, I swear to God, it was like, "We have our steel, we have our axes. Get ready for trauma. Prepare your asses." And I was like, dude, no.
Oh yeah, that's what it is.
Yeah, that's the one. Yeah.
I was like, it's like, what are we putting in the song?
Yeah, honestly,
like,
we had
obviously
enough.
that was not going to go into the song, but like, my brain was just like, "Oh, prepare your asses."
Honestly, after Kindled Fury, we had enough questionable lyrics on previous BP songs that we had to dial it back a little bit.
So a lot of Ian's sentiment stuck, and then like we gave it to Nolan and we said, how do we make this a little bit less, hey man, what do you mean by this?
I remember you were like, keep the original theme, and I kept a lot of the same lines too, like the original lines, but I just kind of ironed out the wrinkles a bit and got rid of.
I think they're mostly
trauma.
I think except for prepare your asses for trauma, they're like mostly similar. Thankfully.
The coolest thing that Nolan did though, it was like that song "Victory" by Megadeth, which I think is like a good song, but I hate the lyrics. Where like every song from "Killing Is My Business" on is just mentioned in the lyrics. Nolan did that in the middle section, like when it's going super fast. He starts dropping old names of BP songs and like including like he pulled out like Slaves to the System tunes and stuff, and I was like, dude, that's sick.
Yeah, because I was like, the song is about us playing shows and like, hitting the road and everything. So I was like, what if this fast part, we just reference a bunch of old and new like BP songs in it, but like make it a coherent sentence. So it says like, the system slaves search for the key, the spectacle so grisly, the hopeless void, it calls my name, hear Satan's voice, you've been betrayed. It's like every line is a reference to a BP song title or EP title.
Dude, I forgot that you put a reference to the Call of Satan in there. Holy shit, that's a deep cut. Dude, I forgot about that song.
Yeah.
These other 3 posers don't even know what demo that's off of.
Isn't that from the first demo?
No, it's from Ego Collapse. It was the 3rd song.
Oh, the second one then. Yeah.
I forgot about that song. Like, wow. Holy shit, man.
I think I just pulled out your CDs on your rack, like old demos, and was just looking at the titles and just like, so I just.
Because you were doing that while Phoenix and I were doing his first recording session, and him and I were a bottle of Josh Sellers down. We drank an entire bottle of Josh recording. And
off that
we just looked. Dude, no, like I'm so serious. If you look at the Instagram post when I post, I know you don't have Instagram, but if you look at the Instagram post when I posted like the album announcement, I tagged Josh Sellers.
It's in the liner notes too, right?
It's in the liner notes of the CD. It says thank you to Josh Sellers for the inspiration. Like Phoenix and I downed a bottle, and we just look over, and Nolan has like all my old BP CDs like sprawled out. He's like laying on the floor, kicking his feet, writing the words, and I'm like, dude, fuck yeah.
I had such a good time being able to write lyrics for this album too. I was glad you guys gave me that kind of freedom to give some.
Have you read our old lyrics, man? We needed somebody else.
Prepare your asses.
I found the note that I made where I was like writing out the lyrics for Tonight We Ride. So like I have the original lyrics for it, and then like what my ideas were in parentheses like after that, and it was kind of, I mean, neither one was great, but it was interesting.
Did you get your ass prepared?
It was, well, so here's the thing. It was, the original line was, the moon is drawing, the time to strike is growing closer, sharpen your knife, right? So then I had come up with, the end of your life has come to pass, it's time for trauma, sharpen your axe. And then that's where, you know, I had gotten it's time for trauma, and then went to open your ass instead of
All in all, I think it's safe to say that Tonight We Ride is probably the song that we had the most fun with. I feel like
Yes.
I can definitely say that. Yeah.
It's
I'm gonna
certainly
pee again. I'll be right
that
back.
that fast part is probably one of my favorite moments on the whole album. It's just,
For
it's
sure.
got such a cool energy. It's fun to play. It scared the hell out of me when I had to record it, but that was one of the ones that somehow I managed to pull it out in one go. But it's just, it's so fun. It's got such a good energy to it.
That's why it's my favorite track on the album.
Mm.
I listened to the album like 10 times, and on the first listen, I was like, "Oh yeah, this is definitely probably gonna be my favorite." And 10 listens later, it's literally still my favorite. Fucking love that song.
It's a great anthem.
It is a good anthem. Oh man, I'm glad I got all this lore. It's gonna be fucking fun editing this.
Yeah. A lot of material.
Production was fun for us because we just got to be like, dude, Logan, we don't like the way this sounds.
Sounds like shit.
Fuck all of you.
And then 35 hours on one
and then
song
magically
later,
5 hours
Logan
have passed and we get a better version of the song. That was pretty fun. But
Magically,
All of
the
you.
song would sound better 5 hours later.
Anyway,
Dude,
let's actually hear the
approved.
question.
One of my
Yeah.
favorites was when he was texting the chat and was like, "Guys, I found it. This is the perfect mix. I love this. This is the best this has ever sounded." And then 20 minutes later, "Never mind, I lied. This is the worst shit I've ever made."
I might be a little dramatic when I mix.
That's accurate. I feel like that's right up
I-
Logan's alley to say.
Listen, man, I'm a perfectionist when it comes to the mix. Even though I'm not, because there's like multiple things in that album where I was like, who cares? But mixing this album was hell. It was bad. These guys had it cushy. They would hear it and they'd say it sucked, and then magically it got better. I was doing the magic, and I kid you not when I say if I opened up my computer, it did not close for hours. And I wasn't doing anything else. Like this is like the one thing that like my attention span is fried, dude. Like I'm doom scrolling and looking at like spiked cortisol and getting mogged by ASU frat leaders and shit on my Instagram reels all the time. And like mixing is the one thing that keeps me from doom scrolling because I'm just like, I gotta like get to work. So like when I'm mixing, dude, it does not, my attention does not go anywhere else. And so, it was awful. And, you know, we've got to work with Zeus again, for mastering. He's famous for working with Hatebreed and Shadows Fall and Queensryche and Overkill and Suffocation and insert band that was on Nuclear Blast at some point. He's become a buddy of mine through, you know, we go out and have some beers after a Queensryche show. He's from Mass, so and he mastered the Martyr approach. And he was going to master this album. And I gave it to him, and I hadn't heard from him for a bit. And look, I mean, he ended up doing the Rob Zombie album that just came out. So, like, shocker, he was probably focused on that. And I mean, God, I would have been too. But, you know, I hadn't heard from him for a hot minute. And, you know, it turns out he'd been working on the mix on the master for a while. And he was like, I'm going to be honest, I can't figure it out. I was going based off of some tips that my professor in college showed me with the mix. He was like, you know, mix higher on the mids and keep the low and high frequencies kind of down. Those come out in mastering. And Zeus was like, never fucking do that. And I was like, oh, okay. Well, that's whoops. So he said, remix the whole record. And I'm like, oh. So I got home and I remixed the whole album in about 10 hours. front to back, redid the whole thing, and I sent it over. And he was like, "It's better, but can you do this? Then can you do this?" I ended up remixing the album about 5 times in the span of 2 days. And we finally nailed it, and I'm glad we did. I'm glad we did, but it was really stressful there for a little bit. It was the right call. It was what we had to do. But I have no positive opinions on how the process was making this. This album can go fuck itself. I I hated it. Um, and it's not like it was you know, it's not like a band hired me to do this. At least I was getting money. Like, no, I didn't make anything for it, so that sucked. But like, whatever, dude. The passion's there. I'm happy it came out how it did, but I hated the mixing process of this album. But I'm happy with the end result. I'm happy with it, especially now. It took me a little bit of time because once the album was finished and I got the masters back and we were like, all right, it's done, and I submitted it. I was like, I'm still not happy with how this sounds, but I have to just kind of accept that at some point it'll never be perfect. But then I took like a couple weeks away from like I just didn't listen to a thing from the record for a couple weeks. And I went back and heard it and I was like, all right, yeah, like I'm happy with this. I drove myself insane listening to it, so my viewing was skewed. I'm hoping people listen to it and don't think it's bad. Because I really gave my all with this mix. So I hope it's good, but my ears were driving me insane. I was ready to delete the album. So
No, dude, it sounds fucking great.
hope so.
It really does.
All right, so what was your actual question? Because we kind of just went off on a tangent
Yeah.
without ever hearing the real question.
Basically answered it. Answered it. Yeah, it was who and how the album was produced and mixed and mastered. But yeah, answered my questions.
Connor, can we talk about your dad, or is that
Yeah,
a no-go?
I can talk a little bit about that. So something that we did differently on this album, which we've referred to a couple times, is the reamping process. So historically, on previous albums, Logan, I don't know
Including
if
the
you can,
debut.
yeah, I don't know if you can talk about it at all about how exactly you did the original guitars. It was a modeling amp or something, or a
Modeling
digital,
amps on,
yeah,
yeah, some
clone.
sort of digital. Even on the debut with Jez, like we even did it on that. Like every
Yeah.
record just had model amps.
So all the guitar tracks are, recorded just kind of clean, straight in, no distortion, nothing. And then, he would run them through those digital amps and kind of come up with a tone he liked. Um, I am kind of obnoxious about wanting a real amp to be in it, whether it's just for my sound or whatever. I'm anal about that stuff. And one thing that I pushed for a lot was having reamping done so that we could have the sound of real amps on the album, but also while still giving us the flexibility of being able to, re-record things over and over and over and over again without actually having to re-record the part over and over and over again. Because that's the magic of reamping. You just record it clean once and then you run it back through the real amp as many times as you want with a real microphone as if it's being played raw through that amp for the first time. So part of that process, in order for us to do that, was we needed a lot of equipment. Obviously, a lot of that stuff isn't cheap. Shout out to my cousin. He, for like my birthday, bought me a piece of the hardware. He had lent us one of these that lets you do the reamping process. And we used it for our botched attempt at Harvest Pyre way back when. But then when we actually went to reamp the whole album, he bought one for the band. So we have a piece of the hardware for ourselves. But the part Logan was referring to is my father. He's in the music industry, and without getting into too many details, he has access to a lot of different really expensive heads, like guitar amps and microphones and all sorts of cool stuff that we would never have access to otherwise. So something that we did with this is we spent a day. Actually, originally it was going to be a full weekend, but we managed to get it done pretty quick. We spent a day at a place with my father, and we sat down and we picked a bunch of really cool amps that we liked the sound of, or like super famous amps like Phoenix's tracks. All of them are recorded on a JCM 800, right?
900, I think.
900, yeah. And that's like an iconic amp that's in tons of old school albums and modern albums. And then I ended up just using my orange amp that I use live, but we recorded each of them through 3 different microphones initially. We put a shit ton of effort into just re-recording over and over and over again until we could get sounds that we liked. And huge shout out to my father, because otherwise we wouldn't have had access to that equipment. But yeah, I think that made a big difference in the guitar sound. It's not necessarily inherently better, but I think it sounds different. It sounds a little more live, a lot more clear and defined, more mid-rangey. It's just generally a very different sound. And Logan, maybe you can chime in a little bit there about how you feel like it changed the overall sound of the album.
I mean, I'll just come out and say it. I think it sounds better. I think it absolutely sounds better. First of all, I think how I was approaching the tones in terms of the mix and the sound is very different. I mean, I I liked the album at the time. It's not really my thing anymore, but when I was working on Martyr Approach, I really tried to model those guitar tones after like Suffocation Pierced from Within, and that's not the style that I want this band to be. That's not the style that this band ever was. But that's kind of like where my head was at the time, and this time I wanted it to be. I wanted this to sound like a band. I wanted this to sound like, uh, in a way, raw metal, but pure metal, but not too raw that you couldn't tell what was going on, kind of thing. But I wanted whatever we recorded to sound good, so I didn't do any EQing to any of the guitars that we recorded, except for just a high pass filter, cutting out like the really rumbly frequencies to get it out of the kick range. The recordings were great. I did very little to them, just some panning and some volume control between the different mics. But
Something I was going to say that's worth giving you credit for, Logan, is since we recorded on multiple microphones, the right way to do that is you have an interface that has all 3 microphones, and then you record the song through all 3 microphones at the same time. We had an interface that only took 1 microphone at a time. So that meant we had to record each guitar part 3 times. And all of those are not lined up inherently. So Logan had to go in with a microscope and line up every single track to be perfectly in line. And if they were even slightly off, I mean, I don't remember, you were saying it was like nanoseconds or something difference, it would just
millionths
completely
of a
botch
second.
the song. Like crazy phase cancellation, like a guitar would just disappear all of a sudden. So he spent countless hours lining up tracks, because of a simple hardware limitation that we had. And,
It was
huge credit
hours.
to Logan for that.
That was like the stupidest thing, the smallest thing, the most annoying and tedious thing, and yet the most vital and important thing for this album.
Yeah.
Millionths of a second. If it was off by like a single millionth, completely different. So that was very tedious to line up because my DAW that I was working with, my initial DAW, wouldn't let me line it up that in depth, so I had to open them in Audacity. So that should say everything you need to know.
Right.
Yeah, and that was a lot of work. But again, we got the sound that we wanted. It came out how we wanted, and I mean, they sound great. And especially those guitars meshed very well with Ian's bass. So the guitar engineering, huge shout out to Connor's dad. Huge shout out to Connor and Nolan being there for the reamping. And also just a shout out Marci for the drum recordings. Professional as always, amazing as always. Go to Upside Records, get your stuff recorded there. Do it. I mean, it sounds amazing. So I will say though, that is one new thing that we tried this album. We triggered the kick drum. Put your pitchforks down, please. I'll explain myself. Trigger the kick drum because I found my head. I went to replace my kick drum head for recording. I bought the wrong fucking size, so I couldn't change the head, and that head is so old, and my kick drum sounded terrible. And I was like, well, too late. We got to record because I was on a time crunch that day. So I just triggered the kick drum, and it sounds a lot better. I didn't make it clicky. If you have typewriter clicky kick drums, fuck off. Like,
Popcorn.
Excuse me. Yeah, you should. It should sound like a bass drum. If it doesn't sound like a bass drum, no. Like it's called a bass drum. And unfortunately, here's another mistake I made on Martyr. So I was like, well, every modern band is doing the clicky kick drum. It's all got to be clicky. I'll eat crow. I shouldn't have said that. Again, I don't like the direction I took with the production of Martyr, but that's where I was at the time. But I stopped trying to be kind of what this band shouldn't be. Was it what this band wasn't, because we never were that before, and I think it sounds a lot better for it.
So, what is everyone's favorite song from the album?
I'd say either Rotten Grace or the title track, or In the Grip of the Depths. The In the Grip of the Depths, every time I listen to it, I'm just like always in awe at like the songwriting on it. I'm gonna glaze Logan a little bit here for that.
Yo.
The songwriting I think is just awesome on that song, like the way the different sections flow together. Then it's like very aggressive and evil, like black metal, kind of black and death metal, but then like the way it seamlessly goes into like the Iron Maiden epic riff and stuff towards the end, I think is yeah, it's just crazy, and it's got a catchy chorus and everything. Like I think it's a really strong song. But yeah, that or Rotten Grace, just for being straightforward evil black metal. That's right up my alley, of course.
I'd honestly say it's probably the same two for me. I think this album starts and ends on its highest points. Harvest Pyre is probably the best song, but I've heard that song enough. Like it's not. I don't need to hear that song again for a very long time. So I'd probably say the first or the last. Same reasons.
Yeah, for me, I'd say I would have said probably Rotten Grace a while ago, but after listening to it, a whole bunch after being completely mixed, I think the song I find myself going back to the most is probably Abyssal Embrace. I think that song is so different from everything else, and it's really fun to play, and it's really fun to listen to. There's also some kind of like creative things that Phoenix and I have been doing live.
Yeah.
And it's just all around, I think, and it's fast, it's quick. I don't have to like sit down and listen to some crazy long song. It's just like that, and I feel like it scratches my itch. Second to that, I think I really like Tonight We Ride also, just because it is kind of more in line with a lot of the other music I like to listen to.
Yeah, I was gonna say Abyssal Embrace actually is probably one of my favorites too. I just that bendy straw riff.
Yep.
I don't know what it was, but from just the first time I heard it, it just kind of grabbed my attention. And I think it's just such a unique moment on this album that we don't necessarily have a lot of in BP songs, at least up to this point. But it's just such a cool riff. I find it gets stuck in my head all the time. But like Connor said, it's short, it's fast, it's aggressive. It's just a really punchy, quick in and out song. It's a lot of fun to play live too, from a bass standpoint as well. It's a great song. I also do like Harvest Pyre. Um, I do tend to like kind of more of the slower, like plodding along black metal songs. Like Lord of the Meek is also one of my favorite ones too, because the energy that you get from playing those live is so, it's different, but it's not bad different. Like it's such a unique energy, and I don't know, it's just the vibes from playing Lord of the Meek are always great. And the couple of times that we played Harvest Pyre have been kind of the same way, which I really appreciate that. And it gives everybody a chance to kind of like, take a bit of a breather, but we still, we're not going at light speed anymore, but we're also not necessarily easing up on the heaviness either. So that song, and then, like I mentioned, the second half of Tonight We Ride is just unmatched in my opinion. It's such a cool passage. All the different things that each instrument is doing all at the same time, and then coming together to do something together. It's such a cool segment.
Quick note, I just found this in my phone. April 14th, 2024, a video of Phoenix and I playing the first pass of Abyssal Embrace way back.
Oh,
Connor was there. He filmed this. It was a very different song. I forgot this
I
existed. I'm
did.
gonna have to go listen to it later. I know. Yeah. We did a practice then because we had that show. No, we didn't. Why were we there? I don't know. That was the
Really?
same day.
I feel like we had some
Later.
show that was like canceled like a week later or something.
Yeah, we did. Because that was the same day, or maybe it was the day before when I found out my dad almost died. Like that was at like the same time. Um, I think it was like right after that. And that's why I was down. I was down in Connecticut because they weren't there. We've had that practice. We started writing Abyssal Embrace. And the drive home was interesting. So I just remembered that all that just came back to me. I'll have to listen to that later. But yeah, that was like the original. There was like a ton of like grindcore moments in the first version of that. I remember it was like way more chaotic. So, anyways, Phoenix, if you want to go ahead and answer this question now, you can.
Yeah, I think my favorite song is probably Profane Command. Um, I think it sounds similar to sort of like the Dark Funeral sort of black metal that I enjoy listening to a lot. Or like Watain, that sort of style a little bit. And I really love Nolan's vocals on that, where I feel like um what do you call it? I feel like a lot of our vocals, like, they're death metal-y sometimes, and they're sometimes like maybe a little thrashy, but I think there was just some really cool vocal moments on that, especially with Nolan like going into the highs that, I really want to explore on like future music. Oh yeah, and also I just feel like, vocally or like lyrically, we kind of um did like the newest stuff on that song of any like song we've done so far. I think it was just kind of like a cool new angle of like the BP sound.
yeah. You're talking about Profane Command, right?
Yep.
I remember when we were working on that song, like demoing it and writing it and stuff. You had written the lyrics for it already, or like almost all of them, and you showed me the vocal arrangement you had in mind. I remember thinking it was very like creative, like the way the words were held out, almost like purposely kind of out of time with the music during the verses, where it's like, smash the mirror of reflection, where it's like those long drawn out words just kind of yelled like over the riff like that. I think it was really cool and like interesting the way you had written it.
Yeah, it was definitely fun working together, like Volk on the lyrics of that.
Yeah,
Especially coming from guitar, having never like trying to arrange vocals and lyrics is like a fun process for sure.
yeah.
I love the lyrics on that song. You guys did awesome with that. Some of my favorite lyrics on the whole record.
Thanks, bro.
Yeah, bro. Steven, what's your
God,
least favorite song on the album?
least favorite.
This is the only thing we care about. What do you
Well, can
hate?
I can I cover my favorites first?
Fuck your favorites.
My favorites. No. I gotta
No,
go with
you
my
can
favorites
do
first.
do whatever you want. Yeah, it's fine.
Definitely my favorite song on the album is definitely Tonight We Ride. I've already gone over that fucking amazing tune. But then I think my second favorite would definitely probably be Rotting Grace. I just like contradicted myself. I said definitely probably, but whatever. Rotten Grace, great opening tune, and then those like melodies like halfway through and the beat I fucking love that shit so much. With a huge like what do you call it? Runner up being Victim of Circumstance. Like I said, that up and down riff, it literally, if you added synths to it, it would sound like an Emperor tune from like Anthems or Equilibrium. So fucking good. Like that's probably my favorite riff on the album. Probably. I fucking love that riff. So good.
Connor,
But
try not
again,
to throw up.
least favorites would probably be the two that I didn't take notes on, maybe. Like but I wouldn't even say they're my least favorites. Like I just found myself like saying the same things about them. The Hunt. No, I'm kidding. Yeah, probably like Profane Command or Cowering Forms. They just like kind of like I don't know. They're good songs, but they kind of just like blended into the rest of the album, you know.
Mm.
But the whole album rips.
How does this stack in the BP discography for you now? That's what I'm curious about.
You know, I've listened to the album about 10 times, if not more. And I told you on the phone the one day, I said I think it might be my new favorite, but again, I got to listen to it more because Martyr is just so untouchable.
I know
Martyr's on a level of its
you
own.
love Martyr.
I fucking love Martyr. I'm not even like joking. Like that album is fucking perfect, like an actual 10 out of 10. Is there anything else you guys want to shout out or any plugs you want to?
Fuck.
Shout out to the boys in High Viz for sure.
Josh Sellers, Lone Wolf James.
Yeah,
Land
that's
Shark
not
beer.
James.
My
Yeah,
wife
Land
for
Shark.
putting up with my bullshit.
Land Sharks. Our favorite corner in the Adirondacks.
Oh yeah, that's important.
Shout out 72 beers.
Shout out Fish.
72
Fuck
Shout out
72
72
seasons. We got 72 beers.
real.
A real.
I feel like we should clarify that, maybe 72 beers to some people wouldn't sound like a lot, but we didn't eat at all while we were drinking those 72
no,
beers.
no, we
correction.
We did.
You had an
It was
entire jar of
exclusively-
hell of a good dip before
That's
Ian
all,
got
yeah,
back.
we-
It was exclusively onion dip and beer. Yeah.
Before Ian got back from the garage.
Because the electricity was out, so we
So
we
you
couldn't
had to
really
eat
have
hell
any
of a
real
good
food, yeah.
So shout out hell of a good. Shout out the boys in High Viz, Lone Wolf James and Josh Sellers and
Did you have to
all
eat
that
it so
stuff.
that it wouldn't go bad in like the unplugged fridge or the off fridge?
Yeah,
no,
something
he
like
was
that.
he just wanted to
Yeah.
eat it.
We just wanted to eat it. Yeah.
Fat fucks.
I had nothing to do with it. Even
like-
if the power didn't go out, he was eating all that dip.
Oh yeah.
Exactly. It's like grocery store food. It's like made out of plastic. Like it doesn't go bad.
Yeah,
Not
that's
good.
it, man. That's all we
Thank
got.
Thank you guys again for popping out for this. Fuck it, this is gonna be like literally my longest interview ever, if not the one with Marci. That one went on for a long time.
No, Marcy's gonna be longer. This won't. There's a lot of stuff you'll probably cut from this one, right?
Yeah, there's definitely a lot of cuts.
Please.
This one won't be.
Yeah, I'll go through it. Yeah, thank you guys all for being here, making time in your busy schedules to, sit down with me for the last 3 fucking hours. It was fucking awesome, and I'm glad I got to get all the insight for the new album. And release date not available to me as of yet, but keep your eyes.
Oh, so
peeled
you don't
for
have
the-
Instagram. April 17th.
April 17th. Keep your eyes peeled for the release date.
The month
Fucking
from
listen to
today.
the album. Please listen to the album. You guys got any shows coming up?
Who knows?
Oh, April 12th is that Cambridge?
Yeah, Cambridge.
Cambridge. April 12th in Cambridge. We're headlining.
Hell yeah. Pop out to the April 12th show. I'm gonna see if I can or can't. Hear some of the new songs live. Bosco, you're annoying the shit out of me right now.
Fuck you, Bosco.
You're ruining my outro. All right. I know y'all want to get out of here, so thank you again for joining me. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank
Thanks
you
for
for
having
having
us,
Thanks,
man.
thanks for having us on.
Awesome.
Nothing but
Thank
love,
you.
Steven.